Hello again, everyone. This is David Elkins, and this is the Not Open Doors Sunday School class. This week we're going to talk about Jeremiah chapter 22. Last week in chapter 21, if you remember, God himself spoke through Jeremiah and said that bad days are coming if the leaders of the Hebrew nation did not turn from their evil ways and provide justice to the people. And today he pleads with the king directly. Do no wrong to the powerless. On May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted in the state of Washington. It was the deadliest eruption ever in the United States. The estimated power of the blast was 1,600 times the size of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Miles of forest were leveled by the direct blast, and the very earth was scorched by its power. 57 people and thousands of animals died as a result. The ash cloud turned the sky dark as far away as Montana. The blast was a violent reminder of nature's potential for destruction. Does anyone have personal memories of this disaster? The devastation that was to follow the destruction of Jerusalem probably looked equally shocking. A once thriving city would be reduced to wilderness and wasteland. The devastation of Jerusalem, however, was not natural, but supernatural in origin. Jeremiah chapter 22, verses 1 through 5. This is what the Lord says. Go down to the palace of the king of Judah and proclaim this message there. Hear the word of the Lord to you, king of Judah, you who sit on David's throne, you, your officials, and your people who come through these gates. This is what the Lord says. Do what is just and right. Rescue from the hand of the oppressor, the one who has been robbed. Do no wrong or violence to the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place. For if you are careful to carry out these commands, then kings who sit on David's throne will come through the gates of this palace, riding in chariots and on horses, accompanied by their officials and their people. But if you do not obey these commands, declares the Lord, I swear by myself that this palace will become a ruin. Let's go back and look at these verses, and let's answer the following questions. To whom are the Lord's instructions addressed? Mostly to the king and everyone associated with the palace. What's the primary responsibility of the leaders? To execute justice and righteousness for the vulnerable people in the kingdom. What promise did God give to the king if he obeyed? The royal line of David would continue to reign and prosper. What would happen if he disobeyed? The king's house would be destroyed. Now, verses 6 through 10. For this is what the Lord says about the palace of the king of Judah. Though you are like Gilead to me, like the summit of Lebanon, I will surely make you a wasteland like towns not inhabited. I will send destroyers against you, each man with his weapons, and they will cut up your fine cedar beams and throw them into the fire. People from many nations will pass by this city and will ask one another, why has the Lord done such a thing to this great city? And the answer will be, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord their God and have worshipped and served other gods. Do not weep for the dead king or mourn his loss. Rather, weep bitterly for him who is exiled, because he will never return nor see his land again. You know, the people that were going into exile, they weren't just getting on a bus and going to King's Island. This is a 900 to 1,200 mile trip across desert on foot. They will never see their native land again. Let's use these verses 6 through 10 and answer the following questions. Even though the Lord cares about the people of Jerusalem, they are like Gilead and Lebanon to him. What will he do if they continue to disobey him? God will send destroyers against them who will burn up the choice cedars found in the king's palace. When other nations ask why God has destroyed this great city, what will be the reason given? The people have forsaken their covenant with God and worshipped other gods. In what ways does this verse help you in establishing priorities? It says, what additional help do you find in 1 Corinthians 7, chapter 7, verse 29 through 31? And that says, starting at verse 29, Paul says, what I mean, brothers, is that time is short. From now on, those who have wives should live as if they have none, those who mourn as if they did not, those who are happy as if they were not, those who buy something as if it were not theirs to keep, and those who use the things of the world as if not engrossed in them. For the world in its present form is passing away. And indeed, we have to make the best of our time before Christ's return. Jeremiah's prophecy in chapter 22 urges the leader of Judah to do what is just and right. In verse 3, he specifically identifies different categories of people that are to be helped and protected. Use the verses provided to identify similar categories of the vulnerable without whom we are to be concerned. I need to work on the word vulnerable. In the first example here, Proverbs chapter 21, verse 13, Solomon tells us, if a man shuts his ears to the cry of the poor, he too will cry out and not be answered. Our second example, let's look at Exodus chapter 22, verse 21. They're told, do not mistreat an alien or oppress him, for you were aliens in Egypt. Exodus chapter 22, verse 22 says, do not take advantage of a widow or an orphan. If you do and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. And our fourth example, Proverbs 1, verses 11 through 16. Verse 11 begins, if they say, come along with us, let's lie in wait for someone's blood. Let's waylay some harmless soul. Let's swallow them alive, like the grave, and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We will get all sorts of valuable things and fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot with us, and we will share a common purse. My son, do not go along with them. Do not set foot on their paths, for their feet rush into sin. They are swift to shed blood. The poor, the foreigner, widows, and orphans, victims of violence. Who would fall into one of these categories in our community? And you know what the next question is. What can we do to help them? Does our example invite God's justice? Next week's lesson comes from Hosea chapters 11 and 12. I hope to see you soon.